Good morning. Happy July 4th. Independence Day, as they say, but since we're meditating today, I'm going to call it Awakening Day. Maybe I'll take a second to shut off my background. There we go. We realize that life includes illusions, but I don't need the illusion of being in a room full of books. So, today we're practicing again, living in the moment and the repetitious nature of that. And as I've been doing the last weeks, we are exploring the Brahma Viharas, the four immeasurable states of loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. And I was talking to another teacher friend of mine about the possibility of doing a retreat on just this. And he said he really has come to believe that the entire teaching comes down to the Brahma Viharas and just being able to practice that and deliver it. So we're going to talk a little bit today about Mudita, sympathetic joy. But I thought I would share something with you that I've been reading, because people now and then talk to me about the repetitive nature of meditating, of wandering away and coming back and wandering away and coming back. What has been referred to me as the manual labor of meditation. And I've heard some people say they don't think they're getting it because they keep having to do this. But we all keep having to do this. Sharon Salzberg, meditation teacher from IMS, said the basic nature of her meditations have not really changed that much over the years. She's still wandering away and coming back and wandering away and coming back. But her life has changed as a result of doing it. She's gentler, she's deeper. She comes to the world from a more serene space. So I've been reading Kevin Griffin's book called One Breath at a Time, Buddhism and the 12 Steps. Kevin is a mentor for me and a friend. And he writes in his essay on Step 10, "This is what we do in meditation, be continuously aware of what is appearing in our mind and body and promptly let go of the attachments and aversions that form around these experiences. In meditation, we don't stick a label wrong appears, but rather put what I see in the context of dukkha or suffering. In this case, is this case going to cause me suffering? If so, I might as well let go of it if I can. This comes to the heart of meditation, the repetitive nature of the practice. If we are going to reap the benefits of meditation, we need to be willing to repeat this process over and over. It requires a certain determination. It helps if we recognize how imperative it is that we continue to practice. So I'm going to invite you to, as I say in 12-step meetings, keep coming back. Over and over and over. So I'd like to invite you to assume a meditation posture, whatever that might look like for you. So that's a posture where you are alert and relaxed, but not rigid. Not like slouching, because you're actually less relaxed. You're actually less aware, attentive when your body is slouched. If you're sitting up straight, but not like just like a natural curve, just sort of let your back fall into that, and let your spine rest on your hips. You might want to tuck in your chin just a little bit because that straightens your spine, like there's a little thread right at the crown of your head, pulling it up. But don't tense with that. Some people, when I say that, tense their neck muscles. Um, I have a message on my screen that says, it's time to meditate. I love technology. So gently close your eyes. And let your body settle. Let's take a few slow, deep, cleansing breaths. Just to help us come into our bodies in the moment. You might want to try a slow, deep inhale through your nose and an exhale through your mouth, like a sigh. Just a couple of times. And let you return to normal when you're ready. And as you breathe out, just relax and soften. You can relax the muscles in your face. You can let your jaw drop. Open and close your mouth just a little bit, just to release those muscles. Restore a lot of tension there. And just let your eyes settle in their sockets. Your neck and shoulders relax to the degree that you can. There's no imperatives, there's no doing it wrong. Letting your stomach relax and just sort of hang. We don't have to hold it in. And let your attention come to your breathing. I'm not trying to do anything with the breath. We're just focusing our awareness. The body will breathe on its own. We're just watching. You can do that by focusing on the sensation of air moving in and out of your nose. You can focus on your chest or your belly moving up and down. The whole global experience of your body breathing. Just let your awareness rest there. When your mind wanders off, which it will, because it does, just notice that. And you might want to name it thinking. Without getting involved in whatever narrative you're thinking, or whatever you're thinking about with content, just notice thoughts become thinking. And letting that part of the mind settle. If you wander off, just notice that you wandered off. Thinking. And come back to the breath. Gently, firmly, without concern or reproach, because you cannot do this wrong. The mind wanders. We're just bringing it back. This is a gentleness practice. If you've wandered off, if you're thinking, it's okay. Just notice thinking. And if you can, notice who or what is noticing all this. Step back just a little bit and see if you can notice your observer observing all this. Because you are not the content of your mind. You are not the content of your thoughts. Just watching them come and go. Who's watching? Notice if your mind has wandered or if it hasn't. If you're thinking, sometimes we may be out in thought for quite some time before we notice. That's okay. The mind works like that. Just notice thinking and come back to your body breathing. And as we come towards the end of this sitting, I invite you to notice whatever state you're in right now, settled and quiet, agitated, to experience yourself in this moment with joy and acceptance and an open heart. And allow your experience of this mindfulness practice, this sitting, to open your heart to kindness, so we can gaze at the world through kindness, through kind eyes. And radiate that into our interactions, the way we meet people, into the way we encounter people. Starting with ourselves, because it's not always easy, especially when we're encountering people we find difficult. Make the benefits of this practice allow us all, allow you and us, to meet the world with kindness and compassion, extended to the people in our household, to the people in our neighborhoods, to an energy that flows into our towns and villages. May the benefit of this practice be of benefit to all beings everywhere. Meditation 30. And that Zoom information is in the chat. The teacher at Soul Community Meditation is a woman named Laura Cannon. She is really, really cool. I invite you all to check her out. She does her thing on Monday nights at 7:30. So today we're talking practice as a therapist. I noticed that there were some people who had I had to mark it all the time. I had to just like keep it rolling to keep my practice. And sometimes it was really full, sometimes it was really lean, and that's okay. But I noticed that there were some people, they didn't really have to do much of anything. They were full up all the time. They were always working. And my first response to that was to be a little jealous. And I also noticed, and I've noticed the whole time I was in private practice as a therapist, women feel their practices more easily. That's just the way it is. There's a lot of literature on that. And I wasn't really okay with that for some period of time. But then I started to contemplate, well, these people are friends of mine. These people are colleagues. These people are doing good work. Let's just celebrate that. So I had to remind myself to practice sympathetic joy, being enthusiastic about other people's successes. And one way to do that is there's an affirmation when you notice that you're doing that. When you notice that you're a little envious of somebody's good fortune, just look at what's happening to them and say, how cool is that? When I was training as an intern's life, like you just completely screwed it up and you're completely ineffective and you didn't help that person at all. And the way to respond to your thoughts of that is to say, damn, I'm good. Get your damn I'm good on, she used to say. This is the same model. If you notice that you're experiencing that kind of tension around someone else's joy and good fortune, get your how cool is that on. Wow, how cool is that? And there's a practice for that. You can bring this person to mind and say, I'm happy that you are happy. May your happiness last. May your happiness grow. May your happiness and good fortune radiate. It's about recognizing abundance. We live in a scarcity culture. There's a zero-sum game. This person has this, so I don't have it. And it's a fallacy. Because another thing that I learned from being self-employed is if I focus on abundance, then abundance happens. If I focus on scarcity, scarcity happens. It turns out there's enough to go around. There's plenty for people's successes. And if this person is successful, it doesn't mean I'm not. Later on, as I was winding down my practice, I was no longer envious of those people who were full. I was like tired. I'm glad I didn't have to do that anymore. So we celebrate people's successes and we celebrate joy. And one of the things about this, we don't hear a lot in this culture about joy and sympathetic joy. We hear a lot more about being a productive member of society, whatever that is. And I'm reminded of this famous quote from John Lennon. He said, when I was 5 years old, my mother always told me that happiness was the key to life. When I went to school, they asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wrote down happy. They told me I didn't understand the assignment. I told them they didn't understand life. We're allowed to be happy. We're allowed to be joyous. We have permission to be okay. It's okay to give ourselves permission to experience joy, to be okay, especially now, especially while we are still in the pandemic. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Things are getting better. What you have to do is turn on the television, although John Prine advised us to blow up the TV. Or read the paper or look around. There's tremendous suffering. There's people dying of COVID. There's gun violence. Last year at this time, there were people marching in the streets of Louisville right across the bridge from where I live. And it's easy to look at that and say, how can I possibly be joyous when there's so much sadness and brutality? But that's what makes it even that much more important. To give ourselves permission to be joyful. Jill Shepherd, Dharma teacher in New Zealand, says it is precisely because there is so much suffering in the world that I've needed to make the effort to turn towards non-suffering, towards gladness or joy, in order to restore myself so that I can face life's challenges. And she was right. Joy is restorative. And it doesn't have to be linked to circumstance. I was in India in 2012, traveling to the Buddhist holy site with a couple of Dharma teachers, John Travis and Heather Sundberg. And I met this guy by the Ganges in Varanasi. Now, to get to the Ganges in Varanasi, it's a very heavy experience because you have to walk through some of the worst slums in the world, like nothing you're ever going to see here in the United States, starving on the streets, to get to the Ganges, which is a holy site. to come up. And I met this guy, and he was begging for food along the side of the river, and he looked emaciated. He looked like a strong wind would blow his skin off. He was dressed as Shiva because some of them believe that dressing like the gods brings you closer to the gods. He probably had dysentery from drinking rice paddy water. He was emaciated and begging for food. And he had this joy about him. He had it like radiated from him. And it's like contagious, like I want to be near this guy all the time. And all the Hindi I know, most of which you're hearing right now, I know one word in Hindi that I actually remember, Dhanyavad, which means thank you. And all the English he knows, which wasn't much more than Hindi I know. I was like, how do you do it? And he smiled and said, I'm vertical, above ground, all good. This is in 2012. That guy has never gotten out of my head. I'm happy about that. Our joy does not have to be predicated on the world around us. This doesn't mean that we don't notice and grieve for what is happening. In the midst of chaos, in the midst of sorrow. When I was working at the hospice, the VA hospice in Palo Alto, California, my supervisor was a woman named Jeannie Dupro. I was extremely fortunate. And long-term Zen practitioner. And it's nothing, she says, my book came out. It's like, okay. So I went to see her read at the local bookstore. It turns out to be one of the best books ever. And that they bought from Sherry Huber on the side of her Zen monastery meditation retreat center in the Sonoma Foothills in California. And Sylvia got sick and died. And Jeannie wrote a book about it. And there's a section here that I come back to a lot that is germane to what we're talking about today. She says, no one who has ever tried it says this path is easy. No one who has ever tried it says this path is easy. It's only preferable to the alternative, which leads down into fear and endless desperate scrambling into death of the spirit. Nothing guarantees that if I accept my pain, I will be a happy person. This path is not concerned with happiness in the ordinary sense of the word, but with a higher kind of joy. What the Buddhists call a joyful participation in the sorrows of the world. A joyful participation in the sorrows of the world. Joseph Campbell wrote, participate joyfully in the sorrows of this world. We cannot cure the world of sorrows, but we can choose to live in joy. Wendell Berry, be joyous, though you've considered all the facts. It's one of my favorite quotes from him. So, one way to practice this, do something kind for someone you don't know for no apparent reason. Going through the checkout stand at a grocery store.
Recording? Was your talk recording?
Yeah, it's available on YouTube.
Okay, that's for Jill.
Yeah, I'm gonna send her an email about that.
Okay.
I've probably told you guys this before. I spent 20 years in Silicon Valley writing about technology. What I learned from that, the most important takeaway from that, is that this stuff doesn't work very well. It's not reliable. But be joyous anyway. Yeah. I have a YouTube channel. All these talks are streaming over YouTube while I'm doing them, and they're archived there.
Thank you.
So I invite you to be kind and gentle with yourself, and I invite you to celebrate joy. And I thank you for joining me today.
Namaste.
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 Bye-bye.
I can.
Hi, Susan. How's it going?
Hi, good. I'm Susan. I just wanted to introduce myself formally. Now you can have a face to my name. I enjoyed this session. It was very, very refreshing. It's a nice perspective, so you get outside of your head and, you know, like you said, get that perspective from, you know, other people. So I enjoyed it very much. So thank you.
Glad you did. Anytime you can get out of your head is a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. It's not a safe place.
One of my favorite songwriters is a woman named Patty Larkin. You might really like her. I don't know anything about your head for music. She plays guitar like she's got 3 extra fingers. But there's a line in one of her songs that says, "Gotta get out of my head. It'll drive me crazy if I let it."
Yeah, definitely relate to that.
Yeah, I think we all can.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming today. I'll talk to you again.
Yeah. Yes, thank you for inviting me. All right, have a nice 4th.
Take care.
All right, you too.